Hey, it's Mike with Mosquito Bite Mics. I want to welcome you back. We're going to do another in our Summer BBQ series. This one's going to be Smoked Brisket, top 10 Q&A. We're going to do some questions and answers. So I hope you find it informative. There's a lot of good information here. There's a few surprises, so I encourage you to watch it to the end. You won't be disappointed, and let's get started. Number one, I'm having a party for 20 people. What size brisket do I need? The short answer is you're going to need a 14-pound brisket. So the next question is how I come up with that number. So when you're cooking brisket, you figure that for every pound of untrimmed, uncooked brisket will yield you a half a pound of cooked trimmed meat. Okay. So when you look at the portions, the general rule is 4 ounces a person, and it can go up to 8 ounces. So it's a quarter to half a pound. And that is all going to be dependent on, what kind of party you're having. Are you having a bunch of other meats? Are you having some chicken and sausage and ribs, or a bunch of sides? Or are people going to be drinking? Because if all that's going on, they'll eat less and less brisket. You'll need less than a quarter of a pound per person. But on the other hand, if the boys are coming over and you're just going to sit around and drink beer and watch sports, then you might need to figure on something like a half a pound a person. So as a general rule, I just cut that in half. I call it a third of a pound. So if each person is going to be allocated a third of a pound, and we've got 7 pounds of usable meat, that feeds 21. So realistically, our 14-pound brisket will feed 21 to 25 people. There you go. Number 2, should I trim my brisket, and is getting a trimmed brisket worth it? Okay, those are good questions as well. I don't trim my briskets, and I'll tell you why. I don't think it does a lot of good. At the end of the day, you want that good fat on the bottom to protect your meat from that grill, as it's going to sit there for hours in the smoker. So the trouble you have to go to trim a little bit of fat off the top, plus the gain you get out of it, it's just not worth it for me. So I don't do it. That's just I'd suggest try it, and if you've been trimming your briskets, try it the other way and see if it makes a difference for you. Now, having said that, is getting a trimmed brisket worth it? Absolutely not. Because what happens is, yes, those trimmed briskets are beautiful, they look really good, but before you do that, you got to make sure that you still have that good layer of fat on the bottom so you protect your brisket. And the other thing you got to worry about, when you come to is it worth it or not, is the fact that you're going to pay, anywhere from 30 to 50% more per pound for your brisket. Now, they didn't cut off 30 or 50% of the weight of the brisket in fat, so you're really paying the premium for a trimmed brisket. So financially, not such a good move, but if you want to try it one time and check it out, I urge you to do just that. Okay, number 3. Do I cook my brisket fat side up or fat side down? Well, I've already alluded to that. You always want to cook your brisket fat side down. You want to protect that bottom and that meat, and you never turn your brisket or do anything like that. You sit it in there, you leave the pit closed, you keep the temperature right, and you let it cook. That's the best advice I can give you. Now, I do have a tip though. If you're cooking on a smaller smoker that your brisket barely fits, maybe by a foot in there, and you've got a hot firebox next to it, then you want to put the point, which is the fatty end, the big fatty end, you want to put that closest to the fire, and then you want to scoot your brisket all the way over so the flat lays all the way up against the other edge. Because what that'll do is that extra hot end, it won't dry out your brisket as much if it's on the point. There's a lot more fat there to deal with, and it'll protect it. And if you flip that around and do it the other way, it's just going to burn your flat piece to a crisp, and you're not going to be able to use a lot of that. So you don't want to do that. Number 4, what temperature do I cook my brisket? Okay, there's really not a wrong answer here. If you've done any barbecuing it on, you've heard all the time 225 is the way to go, low and slow, all that kind of good stuff. Well, I'm here to tell you that I guess I'm getting older. I don't have the patience I used to, because I don't want to spend 24 hours making a brisket. So I cook my briskets at 250 to 275. There's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of it is time. A lot of it has things to do with other complicated stuff like, you know, the tendency for a brisket to stall at 150 or 160 degrees, and because of the moisture. Stalling, if you don't know what that is, stalling is a point in when you're cooking a brisket that the moisture comes to the top, and what it does is it cools down the surface of the meat, and the temperature in the pit then has to compensate for that. So you have what's called a temperature stall, where your brisket stays the same temperature for quite a while until all that takes care of itself, and it starts to go up in temperature again. So cooking at a higher temperature and then wrapping, which we'll talk about in a little bit later, will help you get past all that, and that'll be some stuff that you don't even know about or even worry about, because it won't happen to you. So there you go. Okay, our next one, number 5. How do I know if my brisket's done? Those are good questions too. After you've done briskets for a while, you'll get to the point where you'll know if it's done. You'll know how long it cooks and what it looks like and what it feels like and all that kind of good stuff. But if you're pretty new at it and you're not sure, the last thing you want to do is mess up a $50 or $60 piece of meat. So I say use a temperature probe. Your brisket's done at 190, 195. You should pull it off, wrap it up, you know, let it rest, put it in the oven to rest if you want, however you want to do it, because it'll continue to go up in temperature from there. But 195 is the magic temperature. 190, 195 is the magic temperature that you're looking for. And that's how you know your brisket's done. Now, yes, your brisket should, if you pick it up and move it, it should be kind of, you know, jiggly around like Jell-O, but you don't want to be opening your pit and picking up the whole brisket and trying to see if it's like Jell-O, because you're violating all sorts of barbecue rules there. But that's, yeah, go by temperature. You can't go wrong with that. All right, and that brings us up to wrap. Should I wrap my brisket? Okay, I wrap my briskets and I wrap my ribs, and that's the only two meats I wrap. Now, a lot of people will wrap their pork butts, and we'll talk more about that because I'm going to do a whole video on pork butts, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But for right now, yes, I do wrap my briskets. If you've seen my other video, my super simple video, where I don't really talk about all the specifics, I just show you a really easy way to do it, and I bypass all the little things we're talking about now, but it still works, and you don't need to know why it works, you just know it works, right? So anyway, I've left a link up top here, so you can check that out if you hadn't already seen it. But yes, I wrap my briskets and either let them rest if I've got them to temperature, let them rest in a cooler. Sometimes I cook them and get them up to temperature and wrap them and let them sit all night in a cooler and finish getting happy and resting at the same time. But yes, I do wrap my briskets, and I recommend that you do the same. When I do ribs, we're going to do an episode next. I think the next episode we're going to do is ribs, so we're going to talk a lot about that, because when we wrap our ribs, we actually add a little bit of brown sugar and some butter to them. I don't usually add anything to my briskets when I wrap them. I just wrap them straight off. Let me give you a couple of tips. I use peach paper. Let me show you what that looks like. This is actually made for barbecuing. This is what almost all the professionals use and whatnot. This is peach paper. You can get it anywhere, including Amazon. I recommend you get some. It's food grade. It's made for what you're trying to do with it. Now, having said that, there are some other options. You can use foil. I don't like to use foil because foil traps the moisture in, which is not always a good thing, and it also acts more like an oven. It doesn't let any of the heat out, and so it's really easy to dry out or overdo your brisket. So I don't use foil. Whatever you do, don't use freezer paper, because if you use freezer paper, it's got a coating on it, and that coating will melt and it'll get all over your brisket, and it will actually ruin your brisket. So you do not want to use freezer paper, okay? And then I got one other tip on the peach paper is get the 24-inch wide rolls, because if you don't, then you're going to use tons of extra paper because your brisket's not going to fit, and you're going to have to you're going to have to bastardize the wrapping and ribs as well. So don't get fooled by that. Get the 24-inch wide and you'll be happy. Okay? Okay, number 7. I've heard of people resting their briskets 8 to 10 hours. Is that really necessary? Hell no. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You do need to rest your briskets, but an hour or two, that's all you need. I don't know where that came from or what people were trying to do, but that's just lunacy. I mean, you could end up spending a whole weekend just trying to cook a piece of meat if you're not careful. So anyway, yeah, no. All right. Number 8, do you have any serving tips? Well, I guess the biggest tip I have when you serve, you just simply slice your brisket. Don't trim the fat off when you get back, if you get back to the point end as you're slicing. But when you slice it up, slice it maybe 1/4 inch or so, slices. Don't trim off the bark or the smoke ring or any of that kind of craziness. That's where all the flavor is and stuff. Don't leave. Just slice it and serve it, and that's all you need to do. The big tip is only slice as much as you're going to serve, because when you start slicing, it starts drying out, and it doesn't get any better from that there. So you want to leave whatever you're not going to eat, you want to leave in a big hunk so that you put it in the refrigerator, and or you freeze it, which brisket will freeze real well, by the way. You want to freeze it like that, and then so just cut what you're going to serve, okay? Oh, and a tip for that is, if you have some frozen brisket, or even something that's been in the fridge for a couple of days, slice some up if you're going to eat it, or thaw it out if it's frozen, obviously, and put it in a pan. Maybe add a little beef broth to it, and then some butter, and then let that get happy in the oven at, like, say 200 degrees until it gets warm, and just kind of mix all that up. And I'm telling you, your brisket will be just about as good as it was the first day you did it. So there's that. Okay, number 9, we're getting there. What barbecue sauce do you recommend, and do you make your own? Okay. All right, seriously, if you need barbecue sauce for your brisket, then you need to learn how to cook better, be a better pit master. A good brisket done well will not need any sauce. I do not put sauce on my brisket, so I would urge you not to either. Now, having said that, I am aware that there are people out there who will actually take a $25 ribeye steak, overcook it, and then just put barbecue sauce all over it, or ketchup, or Worcestershire sauce, or A1. I just don't get that. I mean, those people need to sit at the kids' table. But you know what? If that's the way you roll and that's the way you like it, then who am I to judge you? And so I will give you a couple of recommendations. Cattleman's makes a good barbecue sauce, and Sweet Baby Ray's makes a good barbecue sauce. So if you just have to have the sauce, that's what I would recommend. But don't do it. All right, what do we have? Last one. You ready? I was thinking of getting a pellet grill. What are your thoughts? Do you have any recommendations? Oh dear, sweet baby Jesus. Oh my gosh, a pellet grill? Are you serious right now?
Seriously, are you kidding me?
Seriously? Are you kidding me right now? No, I don't do pellet grills. If you feel the need for some barbecue training wheels, or you just don't feel like you're quite up to the challenge, and you're not ready for the responsibility and take the big step and sit at the big table with the big boys, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. That's perfectly understandable. I mean, it's all good. There's no judgment here whatsoever. I mean, we're in America. I mean, you can do just whatever you want. And you know what? If you're doing if you want to do a pellet grill and do all that, then more power to you. I wish you the best of luck. And at the end of the day, no matter what choice you make, how you grill or what you do it, do the best you can, enjoy it, have fun with it, and don't forget, keep barbecuing. Don't stop.